This is CBC Vancouver News.
State of emergency.
I've been on alert before, but never to the point where we were loading up vehicles.
More people ordered to leave their homes as high winds fan flames closer to West Kelowna. A city on the move.
And then to go out on the street felt like a ghost town.
Evacuees fleeing wildfires in Yellowknife arrive in Vancouver. More turbulence ahead for BC Ferries, with one of its largest vessels docked with engine problems. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. Dan is away tonight. We begin in the Okanagan, where the city of West Kelowna and the West Bank First Nation have declared a local state of emergency due to an aggressive wildfire that has forced the evacuation of more than 1,000 properties. The McDougall Creek wildfire continues to rapidly grow, inching its way closer to the city. The flames being fanned by strong winds and persistent high temperatures. Evacuation orders and alerts have been expanded multiple times throughout the day as the wildfire surges. Members of the RCMP are going door to door, telling people to leave and reminding them to register with emergency support services.
The fire is going to be very dramatic tonight. As it gets dark, the fire is going to look like it is right on top of the community. It's going to burn well into the early hours of the morning. There'll be glow and huge flames visible along the top of the hill. It's likely the evacuation order area will grow tonight. I don't want people to panic, but I also want people to take it seriously. If you haven't been evacuated yet and you are in an alert area, you need to prepare. So gather things together that you need to bring with you. Have a plan with your family and be ready to go on short notice.
Across the lake, hundreds of people gathered along the Kelowna shoreline to watch the flames as they creep over the forested hills, burning trees and brush along the way. Officials are warning that tomorrow will bring cooler temperatures, but stronger winds, and that may shift the fire towards new areas. It's a rapidly developing situation in West Kelowna tonight, and as Mira Baines tells us, the warning for residents is to stay alert.
You know what? There's so much more.
Residents of West Kelowna are bracing for dangerous days ahead.
I've been on alert before, but never to the point where we were loading up vehicles. We just kind of waited it out and it went the other way, so we didn't have to worry about it.
This time is different. A thick plume of smoke threatens West Kelowna. As a heat wave that saw temperatures break the 40-degree mark for some BC communities ends, wildfire officials warning the worst of this fire season could be still to come.
This weather event has the potential to be the most challenging 24 to 48 hours of the summer from a fire perspective.
BC Wildfire Service is bracing for an incoming cold front pushing into a hot air mass.
When those two things happen, it creates significant and sustained winds, likely in the 30 to 40 kilometers an hour range, with gusts up to 60 to 70 kilometers an hour.
Winds combined with lightning and drought conditions can make fires unpredictable, amping up the danger.
This expected strong winds means that wildfire can move and change direction exceptionally fast.
In the Okanagan, rapid and extreme fire growth led to two fires merging into a 10,000-hectare fire.
And we had a couple of campers right away decamp from there and come here. And I'm glad they did because they were definitely threatened by fire.
Chris Matheson manages a popular RV and camper site in the area. He says 5 years of flood and fire threats are taking their toll on the community.
We're all exhausted. It's not surprising that UBC and other universities are studying our town for post-traumatic stress disorder at the community level. We'd like a couple of quiet years, please.
For now, people are anxiously waiting and watching what Mother Nature will bring for the rest of this fire season. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Highway 1 is closed overnight in both directions between Hope and Lytton due to wildfire activity. The Kukipi Creek wildfire south of Lytton is dangerously close to the highway, impacting traffic. Meanwhile, just north, the Stein Mountain wildfire has led to the evacuation of the Lytton First Nation. The order covers 2 reserves. Evacuees are being told to go to Lillooet. As we've heard, it's been a difficult fight for BC fire crews who remain on edge tonight. Officials warn the next 48 hours will be the most critical of this wildfire season, with an incoming cold front set to sweep through the southern half of this province.
And obviously, we're already dealing with a significant amount of fires already on the land base. What these winds, coupled with the dryness of the fuels, will do in the next 24 hours on our existing fires, as I said, it will challenge our control lines. We are expecting to see growth on those fires in the next 24 hours, including through the entire evening tonight into Friday morning.
Environment Canada says the cold front could bring with it unstable atmosphere and gusty conditions, causing more or worsening wildfires. It's worrisome for crews who say high-speed wind gusts paired with dry lightning and heat make for a dangerous combination, and drought-stricken trees are more likely to burn and blow over. 3,400 firefighters are deployed across BC. Dozens of them are from countries like Mexico and Brazil.
I understand that it is incredibly difficult to leave your home and your community and everything that you know, the places you love, and seek comfort in during challenging times. But I want to emphasize that an evacuation order is not the time to wait and see, especially not under the conditions that are being forecasted.
Thousands of properties are under evacuation alerts in BC, and given the province's wildfire crisis, the minister says we won't be able to send firefighters to help in the Northwest Territories. To the East Kootenays now, where an evacuation alert has also been issued to the Horse Thief Creek wildfire near Invermere. 926 properties in the Panorama Mountain Village and Toby Creek Road areas are affected. Residents are asked to pre-register all household members in the province's evacuee assistance tool. The fire is roughly 4,000 hectares in size. 12 helicopters and 57 firefighting personnel are responding. To the unprecedented situation unfolding in Yellowknife now, where tomorrow's deadline to evacuate the capital of the Northwest Territories is rapidly approaching, along with the growing threat of incoming flames.
The city is not in immediate danger, and there is a safe window for residents to leave the city by road and by air. We are asking all those residents to be evacuated by Friday at noon.
The evacuation of more than 22,000 people is now underway. This is some of the video being shared on social media. The evacuation is happening in stages, with people living in parts of the city with the highest fire risk going first. This is what it looked like at Yellowknife's airport as residents prepare to go. People who need assistance will be flown out. Others are traveling by convoy along the only highway that is still open, making their way to Alberta. Officials are making it clear no one should stay at home. Evacuation flights from Yellowknife began arriving here in Vancouver around noon today. People who are leaving by air have to register before they go. Sarah Levitt is on the ground with evacuees.
What can I get you guys?
Some snacks and some drinks for the people here who are trying to evacuate via airplane. Hundreds of people are here and have been here since early this morning, hoping to register to get out of Yellowknife via airplane. Of course, there are these people trying to get out. They're the people that do not have vehicles. There are hundreds others, thousands in fact, that are taking the highway out for the long trek. It is scary and it is frustrating for these people. The weather is not cooperating in the sense of the fire itself, but also there's rain and it's quite cold. Are you worried about what you saw out there doing the work you were doing?
I think the alarm went off yesterday on my phone at 9 o'clock last night, the emergency. That kind of, it gave me a little spook. It makes you realize that when you see all this, I honestly want to get out of here.
It's quite scary because with the smoke, of course, it's actually lightened up a little bit.
Officials say that they are still concerned that the fire could come to the city. Of course, a number of measures are being taken to try and stop that from happening, including fire breaks and sprinklers on the city outskirts. In the meantime, these people are just trying to get out and get to safety, worried about what will happen here, what will happen to their homes, but hoping that they will be safe. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Dozens of people from Yellowknife arrived at YVR this afternoon. We spoke to some who say they have been warily watching the approaching fire for days.
No, that's been the worst, I think. Yeah. And we've lived it in Quebec in June, the worst forest fires of Quebec also. So it's been a smoky summer for us.
A feeling like being on the Titanic, you know, from that scene where they're all having their fine dining and chaos is breaking out around them. Yeah, and then to go out on the street felt like a ghost town, very ethereal with the smoke billowing throughout the streets and nobody around.
More troubles affecting BC Ferries and its customers today. The corporation says the Coastal Renaissance, which runs between Nanaimo and Tsawwassen, is out of commission again and will be for weeks. The service says it discovered mechanical issues with the ferry's main engine yesterday. It's the second time in less than a month the Coastal Renaissance has been taken out of service. The BC Ferries says the Queen of Alberni, with 25% less capacity, will sail in its place. The Coastal Inspiration continues its regular schedule between Nanaimo and Tsawwassen. With all this warm weather, many have been heading to local swimming spots to cool down, like Lynn Canyon Park in the district of North Vancouver. But after a pair of rescues this week, officials are warning people to stay safe. Joel Ballard has more on the risks of cliff jumping.
Tucked in the forests of the North Shore sits this idyllic swimming hole.
We come to cool down in the heat.
Lynn Canyon is a hit with locals and tourists alike.
We did a bath here in the very cold water.
While there's plenty of picturesque beauty to take in, there are also some risks for swimmers. Despite the numerous signs warning of the dangers, jumping off cliffs is a popular pastime at spots all along the river.
I've done an 80-foot cliff jump just a little while ago, and I hurt my knee. So I know it can be dangerous, but ones like these, I don't feel like they're too high.
First responders say the majority of their calls at Lynn Canyon are related to cliff jumping injuries.
Cliff jumping is inherently dangerous, and conditions change on a daily basis. You may jump in one spot one day, and the next day it might be a totally different landing for you there.
Already this week, the service has responded to 2 calls here. On Monday, a man dislocated his shoulder after a cliff jump near Twin Falls Bridge, and the rescues can be especially challenging given the terrain. Overall, Danks says the repeated calls place a strain on the department.
We want people to enjoy the outdoors safely, and there's a way to do that.
He says signs and fencing are there for a reason. Though there have been no deaths this year, the area has seen its fair share of tragedies. Over the past few decades, about 20 people have died in this canyon. Still, many love to take the leap.
It's a little bit scary in the air, but as soon as you hit the water, sometimes your toes hit the bottom, but it's not bad.
But officials say there are a few things to watch out for, like how hard it can be to gauge distances.
It can magnify things and make it look closer, it can distort it. If there's any ripples on the water at all, it'll distort the shadows and rocks that are underneath the water.
Not to mention the water being cold, which could cause your body to go into shock.
Everybody wants to come home from a day at the water, and every year over 400 Canadians don't come home when they thought they were going to have a fun day recreating around the water.
She says know your skills, understand the risks, and recognize that swimming in open water is different from a pool. Joel Ballard, CBC News, North Vancouver.
Well, it's the end of an era. After more than 60 years, the much-loved Valley Bakery in Burnaby Heights is shutting its doors this week. The owner and head baker grew up in the kitchen following in his father's footsteps, but he says he's ready for retirement. Customers are still holding out hope, though. Their much-loved bake shop will find a new buyer.
66 and a half years.
You know, I couldn't have chosen a better career for me. I started as a little kid. When I was 6 years old, my dad opened the bakery in 1957. Being a little kid, I did things I probably shouldn't have, but I went around and tasted everything. Never had a different source of cakes for my birthday. It's just, you've done a certain job for so long, and at some point, there's more to life, and I don't know whether I have many years left or not, but I'd like to be able to do a few things before they put me 6 feet under. Well, quite honestly, I've been humbled and overwhelmed, and you know, and these are letters that people have sent to me. There's even one done on a typewriter, and this is, like I said, a young girl. Yeah.
So, Paul, how many years have you been?
44. It's, you know, longer than my home. I mean, it's hate to see it go, but that's life, right? 44 years I've been coming through this door, right? So Saturday when I leave out this door, it's a done deal, right? That's it.
It feels really sad. It's the end of a wonderful era. It's the end of lots of wonderful memories.
We're a little bit emotional, actually. I think there's been like generations of us that grew up on those cookies treats.
It's pretty gratifying when you go into retirement knowing that you'll actually be missed.
Many trees in Vancouver are feeling the effect of the drought. After the break, we'll tell you how you can do your part in saving them. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. A Kelowna couple has successfully sued Air Canada following flight delays last summer. Their victory in small claims court means the airline has to be ordered to pay more than $2,000. As Tom Popick reports, aviation experts expect many more disrupted passengers may turn to the courts to get their due.
A slow weekend at Kelowna International Airport, but Owen Thomas isn't taking any chances.
Yeah, it's a real pain in the butt.
Arriving early for a short flight home to Vancouver, delays and disruptions are a reality of air travel these days.
What would I do? Like here? I don't know, I'd be hooped. I guess who knows what I'd do? I'd have to walk over to the hotel or something, I guess.
Costs can add up, but a Kelowna family is getting payback. A small claims court tribunal has awarded them more than $2,000 because of an Air Canada flight delay. The travelers booked a flight from Kelowna connecting through to Cairo last summer. The delay set off flight changes that meant they arrived 56 hours late. Air Canada argued air traffic control and ground crew delays were the problem, issues out of their control, but the tribunal noted competitors' scheduled flights left on time. In April, the federal transport minister promised to make it easier to get compensation under an existing claims program with the Canadian Transportation Agency.
It will no longer be the passenger who will have to prove that he or she is entitled to compensation. It will now be the airline that will need to prove that it does not have to pay for it.
But some aviation experts remain skeptical.
In my opinion, over 500,000 Canadians that basically have had bad experiences with airlines neglecting to, follow the rules and follow the regulations.
He says the government's claim program has a backlog of some 52,000 cases and expects airlines will continue to fight any payouts.
Airlines have, for the most part, since the regulations have been put in place, have been putting up roadblocks by kicking and screaming. You have to basically go after the airlines. The agency has to go after the airlines. The courts have to go after the airlines in order for them to pay.
Earlier this week, aviation analytics company Cirium reported Air Canada had the worst on-time performance of any North American carrier. Only 51% of their flights landed within 15 minutes of the scheduled time. No surprise to Owen Thomas. He's flying a competitor, and knowing a Kelowna family's success will consider the courts an option.
Well, now I would after that story.
If he's ever stuck traveling and stuck with a bill for airline industry failures. Tom Popick, CBC News, Kelowna.
Grab your garden hose and watering cans. The City of Vancouver is calling on residents to help water our thirsty trees. With persistent drought conditions, the city is asking everyone to help protect the urban canopy. Start by soaking the soil around the base of the trees, which are visibly waning or losing leaves.
So the situation right now in Vancouver with the heat wave and the drought is that the trees could use some help. And so we're asking citizens to come out and help water trees. So how people can tell whether a tree needs some water is if it's a young tree, guaranteed it could use some water. If a tree has started flagging, which means the leaves are starting to curl, or maybe there's some browning on the edges of the leaves, or potentially even some leaves have fallen, then a tree could definitely use some water. So citizens of Vancouver can take a bucket of water, put that at the base of the tree, right around the edges of the tree. So that would be where the extent of the leaves go to in the canopy. And they can just pour the bucket out. What's best is that they can take a hose and they turn it on very slowly. They just want a slow trickle at the base of the tree, or again near the outside, and just have that on for 10-20 minutes. So residents can see if a tree needs some water, if the soil at the top is dry and dusty. You can kick away the mulch or the bit of soil at the top to tell, and just add some water there. Yeah, the response has been great. Residents of Vancouver love their trees and they're looking to help in any way they can. Trees provide so many benefits for us, particularly in the summer with the shade, and a little bit of help that we can give them, they will give us back over time.
It's a very good idea because they provide a great filter for our air and oxygen for us, and we need both.
Depending on the water levels, I don't think it's a bad idea because some of them get really dry. But in this time of water conservation, maybe it's not a good idea.
I think if the property or the tree belongs to the city, I think that the city should be responsible for watering its own trees.
Well, I think that they need it. I think the young trees are very thirsty. We were out just running in Stanley Park last weekend and saw a fairly youthful tree fallen over, probably from thirst. So I think it's an important thing for us to do as citizens.
Here we have a live shot of Harbour Centre. We can see that wind blowing on the tower cam. Darius Madavi will have our full forecast coming up next.
I think he was an impetus more than kept on going through the years. I think that the black music scene had a big influence on Vancouver, especially in the 60s and early 70s. So I think Elvis was just there maybe as a catalyst to start everything going a long time ago and got everybody into rock and roll and some of the players.
By the 70s, Presley's influence on musicians may have petered, but his popularity hadn't. He went back on the road and the pace was hectic. CBC weatherman Phil Reimer handled tours to Presley concerts for the last 3 years of the King's life.
There was very little left in the eyes at that point, and the eyes really, I think, whether an animal or human or whatever the case, the eyes really tell the story to the health of a person, and there was absolutely no life left in the eyes.
Presley, Phil Reimer saw, was deteriorating. He had an enlarged heart. His liver was 3 times normal size. His colon was twisted. The list of ailments goes on. So does the list of drugs he was taking. Finally, on August 16, 1977, Presley died. He was 42 years old.
I'll just remember him as a guy who just talent was unbridled. He could have done anything he wanted to. He gave me, I still listen to his music all the time, gave me hours and hours and hours of enjoyment, and I still enjoy him today.
And we thought here was all of the things that we all grew up with. A part of us had died with him. And I think that's the feeling I had, and I'm sure a lot of other people shared it too. Because he was the focal point. No matter the Beatles, no matter all of the things that happened prior to Elvis or after Elvis, he was the focal point for a whole generation of us.
Sweeten through the ages just like wine. Memories. Memories
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
The Punjabi Market Live Festival returns on August 27th, and CBC Vancouver is proud to be the exclusive media partner. Enjoy live entertainment, great food, and family activities. Event info at monsoonartsfest.ca. And on September 16th, join CBC Vancouver at the second annual Come Toward the Fire, a free outdoor festival celebrating Indigenous community, culture, and creativity.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Well, Darius, I know lots to keep our eye on across the province when it comes to the wildfire situation. What can you tell us as to the latest?
Well, we've seen this fire just outside Kelowna really take off today. It's just to the northwest of Kelowna and West Kelowna, and what we're worried about is it's spreading further south towards West Kelowna. Much of the area is now under an evacuation order, and it's largely because of these winds that we're seeing. As that cold front moves through, bringing temperatures down, thank goodness, but it's going to be leaving a lot of high winds in its wake. So the winds themselves sustained at around 15 to 20 kilometers per hour, not too bad, but it's the gusts that are going to be really powerful and propel that fire forward, and it's going to be possibly a really dangerous situation, which is why we've seen that evacuation order put in place earlier today. Now, it's not just the winds that we're worried about. We have all those dry fuels because of that heat that we've had the last week. You can see how much we've jumped up in fire danger just over a few days, less than a week of this really high heat. So it's definitely a dangerous situation, all in part propelled by this drought warning that we've been under, this extreme drought situation. You can see that as of the province's update today, much of the southern interior and Vancouver are now under a drought level 5, the highest category. This is a really unprecedented drought situation, and it's really just exacerbating the fire danger that we would have already. So these are the temperatures we saw today, our last big day of that heat wave. Plenty of heat still, lots of high 30s, mid 30s in the southern interior. You can see that temperatures have started to come down in the central parts of the province as that cold front makes its way down. So tomorrow, temperatures come down quite a lot. You can see we're just below seasonal in much of the southern interior as that cold front moves through, bringing those winds, also bringing that possibility of dry lightning. Here in Vancouver, our temperature comes down as well before coming back up somewhat into the weekend, and then a very seasonal week next week.
Thank you so much, Darius.
Thank you.
That is your late news for this Thursday. Thank you so much for watching. For news anytime, visit our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a great night and stay safe.